Good morning. Thank you for the invite. Greatly appreciate it. And it's great to see so many familiar faces here. Hi, Doug. And I'll go through it pretty quickly. I've got 15 slides, and I am in a poor speaking position of being right before lunch. So I will go pretty quick. And I've been at AGA over 21 years now. I've been in this industry for over 35. So I know a little bit about electricity. Don't ask me a lot of gas questions because I'm not a gas expert, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. So with that, I got a short agenda, and like I said, I'll go through it pretty quickly. So if you have questions, hold them to the end. And I don't expect too many questions since it's lunchtime, but I'll be around afterwards. So with that, you can see natural gas, as Cassidy mentioned earlier, backbone to our business, keeping the lights on. And it's ironic you use that term because it's the same term I had written down. Natural gas is the backbone of our business. So with that, most of you that heard me speak before know that we are about 90% dependent on natural gas. The other 10% is from hydro. That comes from the head of Kachemak Bay with the Bradley Lake project. With that, Cook Inlet, over the last couple of decades, has played a vital role in keeping the lights on the Kenai Peninsula and actually South Central. However, I think as the mayor mentioned earlier, gas from existing wells is declining. Nothing new to this group. With that, we're looking at, okay, what are we going to do next and what's driving that? So with that, we recently secured a 6-year fuel contract with NSTAR. Since 2015, we've had a very difficult time securing fuel. And as I mentioned earlier, 90% of our business, or 90% of the electricity that we generate comes from natural gas. So we secured a 6-year contract with NSTAR, which I'm greatly appreciative of. But with that, the first year that contract is interruptible. So, and you go, well, there are some nights in the winter in Alaska it's dark out. Some nights the wind's not turning, the wind's not blowing. So interruptible should be a cause for concern. And I encourage you to go online and look at Winter Storm Uri back in 2021 in Texas. Even firm gas contracts were interrupted. And I've told that to my peers. I said, interruptible doesn't mean anything in this day and age. A lot of those so-called firm contracts were interrupted during the storm down in Texas in 2021. So with that, I know my own board asked me many times, are you nervous about being interrupted? And I said, no. And the reason I said no is because NSTAR, John Sims, specifically called me several times and said, Brett, don't worry, we will never interrupt you. Chugach Electric Association came along and said, tell you what, let's form an MOA. As most of you know here, we're in a day and age that unless you have it in writing, it doesn't count, which is unfortunate. Chugach Electric came along and said, tell you what, if there's a need for us or for you for gas molecules or electrons at any time, we will go ahead and do an exchange. We will make sure we keep each other from going dark. So, and it could be Mount Spur blowing, and if the winds are from the south and it impacts Anchorage and they need something from us, or we need something if we run out of fuel or have a fuel problem. Again, if it's not documented, it doesn't happen. And the only reason we had an MOA put in place is to make sure, A, we had something in writing to demonstrate to other parties, but also to provide our own members the assurances that if we were to incur additional costs helping somebody else, our members don't pay for it. And it goes both ways, and it's worked out great. So we formed an MOA between us, and it's something that, we always knew that was it. And it's kind of funny, I heard earlier a comment made about the utilities not getting along, and I go, that's crazy. From an operational level, the utilities have always gotten along for decades since I've been here. We have different constituents. It's ironic, when I spoke to a group of legislators a year or two ago up in Anchorage at the LIO, I said, you know, it's a fallacy. Utilities do not get along. I said, yeah, we disagree from a business perspective, but we have different constituents. And I said, do you guys agree on everything? And they all started laughing. They're like, okay, we get it. And, you know, what you're doing today, every legislator has a different constituency, so, but they still get things done. And the utilities are in the same boat. We may disagree, but we will never, ever let one of our peers go dark. Fast forward into, oh, I'm sorry, Carrie, I'm back up one. And then the last one. I think as the mayor mentioned earlier, declining gas from Cook Inlet from existing wells. One of the things that we're looking at is replacing, well, we're not looking at, we are doing, we're going to replace the combustion turbine and combustion turbine generator that we use adjacent to Agrium. It's what provides almost 90% of our electricity today on the Kenai Peninsula. The new units that we install will use about 20% less fuel for the same output. So it's a big deal. In addition, we're in the process of leveraging federal funds through the PAID program, Powering Affordable Clean Energy, to build other resources such as solar on our system. So fast forward, I think a lot of this was covered already. I think everybody's got the clue that natural gas is a backbone of our community and very important to us. We are looking at some options. Historically, we have not had many options. So those options that we see before us today include Cook Inlet natural gas, declining production from existing wells, but I think as the mayor mentioned earlier, John's out there drilling some new wells, and I hope he's very, very successful. It appears that is the cheapest source of gas for cooking, for the utilities in South Central. But we also have some other options that were mentioned earlier. One is LNG. The second and third bullet I got up there. I remember a discussion with Senator Murkowski. She said, Brad, you can't do LNG. I said, Senator, we have to have LNG as part of our equation. We don't have a choice. A pipeline will not come along fast enough, and new wells in Cook Inlet will not develop mature enough to bring online. And she said, that's impossible. I said, no, that's the reality. I said, if you want the lights on, we're going to do LNG. And I said, it's not an easy conversation. It's kind of like trying to explain to Alaskans that farm salmon's good for them. She laughed. So that's where we are. There's two LNG options out on the table right now, and I would love it if they're both successful. I have no idea. As my caveat I stated right up front, I am not a gas expert. So I hope one of them come to fruition. And then one is the end state pipeline. And I think there was a big announcement yesterday on it that I won't reiterate on that. So all of them are very exciting. I hope we're successful with new wells in Cook Inlet. I do believe that we're going to have to import LNG, whether we want to or not, at least during the interim period. And I don't think it's a 5-year, well, let's import for 5 years and be done. There will be enough infrastructure associated. In fact, if you look at that top picture I got in the middle, the yellow is the LNG import-only option. The rest of that photo is a pipeline coming to Tidewater from the North Slope to Nikiski, and the rest of the facility as envisioned by Glen Farm. I'm looking at my watch. Hazard trees and wildfires. It's kind of ironic when the lights go out. It's no surprise to anybody here that the impact the spruce bark beetle has had on our system. If you look since 2020, we've had a 568% increase in outages. And the biggest driver to that has been the spruce bark beetle. Our biggest challenge today, and most of you that live here know, we have a lot of property owners on the Kenai Peninsula that don't live here. In addition, we have very narrow rights-of-ways. If you look at our right-of-way, they look pretty good. Most of the outages come from trees outside the right-of-way. And so we've got a program in place that using federal grants and working with the borough, that we are targeting those areas of our system, most of them are on the north end of our system, where trees from outside of our right-of-way are impacting our lines. I'm probably the only one that's going to be thrilled here if we get a cool, wet summer. But it does mean the wildfires are kept at bay. They are the one thing that keeps me up at night. It's not the gas, it's the wildfires. We have no legal right to go on private property to cut trees outside of a right-of-way. And it's a real challenge. So we're leveraging federal dollars, and it's been great. And so far, it's been very successful. I talked to our right-of-way clearing rep yesterday, and he said, so far, he's batting 1,000. I said, well, keep up the good work. Now's the time to do it. So I hope it stays overcast and wet, but I'm probably the only one that hopes that. But we are targeting high outage areas, and we're not going to solve it overnight, guys. What's really frustrating when the crews go out and cut trees off the line, and they get called back to the same location because a property owner decided to help out and start cutting their trees, and they dump trees in the line. We're already busy enough. So if you see a tree that's dead, that's leaning towards the line, give us a call. We may not get out there the next day, but we'll get out there shortly. And it's better for us to cut it down, and it's safer for you. And then rates, just a little bit. I want to talk about rates very quickly, and then wrap it up. Bless you. Our largest cost driver, just briefly on rates, I love this, and it is dated. It's 2020 through 23, and you can see the rapid increase. And almost everything we use in our business. I'm sure some of you are businesses that are very capital intensive as well. This does not illustrate the impact of recently applied tariffs or the BABA requirements, which basically says in the old days, servers, the only place we could get them was China. And by the way, I asked our IT before this morning, we've got 28 servers and over 150 PCs at HEA. Electronics run our entire business. And you can see the cost of everything, even at this dated photo, has gone up significantly. There's almost nothing we do. And I don't have insurance up here, which most of you know insurance has gone through the roof lately. So with that, where every dollar you send to HEA goes, and you can see roughly 39% of what you send to HEA goes to pay for Bradley Lake Hydro, which is really inexpensive, or fuel, natural gas. There's no markup in there. There's nothing to pay for poles and wires, substations, generators, insurance, nothing. It is a straight pass-through. It's like you pulling up to a gas pump with your vehicle, and you pay what's on the pump. There is nothing in what you're paying that's paying for tires, oil, the bank, or anything else. It is strictly fuel with no markup. So we are very dependent on gas and the price of that gas. So when gas goes up $1, your bill's going to go up. And you'll see it on your bill under what's called COPA, Cost of Power Adjustment. And legislative impacts, just to close out really quick. If you can take anything away from my presentation today, it's pay attention to what's happening in Juneau and at the Regulatory Commission of Alaska. Very busy slide, but what I've watched over the last couple of years, an increasing amount of bureaucracy at our business. Maybe that's not the politically correct term. Increasing demand for our financial human resources on new regulations that are coming along. We don't agree with everyone. However, we are seeing a huge impact on our business. And I stress to the employees on a regular basis, pay attention to what's happening in Juneau, pay attention to what's happening at the Regulatory Commission of Alaska. It will affect your bill. I guess I'll let it go at that. I said enough.